Chapter 32 The Caldorix. The Resonance Cascade detached from Hualinga and throttled up her engine. Captain Cantor ran down from the cockpit to the Combat Information Center and shouted, "Where's that Olenbar girl?" "I'm here," Appia called back as she clambered up an access ladder. "Any reason you failed to mention that when you came aboard?" He pointed to the sensors display, where a three-dimensional display of the Great Khan's flagship could be seen. "I think I would have seen that," Appia protested. "And no one else said anything about a giant warship." Trig entered the room from the cockpit. He had urgent news to deliver. "Captain, those Nagyari ships are moving to intercept the Hualinga, not us. Rulon thinks we're outside of their sensor range. They might not be able to see us." Panako's voice came over the intercom. "Cantor, we cannot stay. We should flee while we are undetected." Trig reached down and took control of the holo display in the center of the room. He called up a map of the star system. "The nearest hyperlane is this way," Trig said. "It will take us into the Whispering Garden Nebula. We could hide in there, couldn't we?" At that moment, Panako appeared in the CIC, pushing Appia out of his way. "More than that, Cantor, Tritonus is in that nebula. Avitus is there, with a keystone shard." "We don't know if the people flying Caldorix are after keystone shards, but we have an opportunity to make certain if they are," Cantor said. Everyone in the CIC started to protest, but Cantor raised a hand for silence. "Panako, did Veldanura give up the location of Hanakon?" Cantor asked. Panako shook his head. "No, he was proud to take that secret to his grave." "Okay, then we need more intel, and this is our chance," Cantor said. "Here's the plan. I want this ship rigged for silent running. Deactivate all non-essential equipment, shut off the radiating sensors, kill all external lights, put life support in low power mode, shut the cold fusion reactor down, and switch over to the auxiliary batteries. Shepminter, put us into a tumble. If anyone looks at the Cascade, I want them to think we are just some debris that got loose when Veldanura's ship was attacked." With a puff of maneuvering thrusters, the Resonance Cascade began to tumble, unpowered, through space. Just after the warship went dark, a single utility drone flew away from her. The drone approached Hualinga and matched speed with the disabled vessel. About a day and a half later, the small flotilla of Nagyari ships matched speed with the Hualinga. The galleon Caldorix was gargantuan in size, dwarfing Veldanura's ship. In fact, the Hualinga was roughly the same size as one of the Caldorix's railguns. In the Cascade CIC, the entire crew nervously watched the sensors display. Behind Rulon, the radar warning receiver was sounding an alarm. "They can clearly see us on their sensors. Why don't they react?" Kara asked. "They must have assumed we're derelict," Glossum replied. "And what happens if they figure out we're just playing dead?" Trig said. "We still have a chance to run away," Rulon explained. "We're outside of their hammerlock, see?" Rulon called up a holographic diagram called the defense sphere. In the center of the diagram was the Caldorix itself. Surrounding it were numerous colored layers, representing the effective range of its weapons and defensive systems. Near the core of this diagram, a dark red sphere enveloped the Caldorix. "This is Hammerlock," Rulon explained. "If we are too close to the enemy, we won't be able to dodge any shots from their railguns. It's physically impossible, even if we hook up an AI pilot to the Cascade. Instant hit, instant kill." Silence returned to the CIC. Everyone was transfixed by the drone's data feed. "Well, we've learned a few interesting things," Captain Cantor remarked. "The Khan's old flagship has seen better days." "Look there, on the bow," Kara said, pointing. "That damage was done at the Battle of Lightwater, on the day Malum died." "The containment chamber is still breached," Panako added. I can see where the song of the Solitaire erupted out of the vessel. But someone's been doing repairs, Tenna pointed out. Look back there by the starboard railgun. There's a patch in the hull. Some of the weapons blisters are missing, Rulon said. Wherever this thing has been for the past 13 years, it was not safe from salvagers and shipbreakers. It must have taken a concerted effort to make her spaceworthy again. And they are still doing work, Panico said. Do you see that strange discoloration on the ventral hull? That is Nagyari biotech at work. Biotech? Trig repeated. The Nagyari had a natural inclination towards biomechanical technology, Panico replied. Their ability to blur the line between flesh and machine is most impressive. The microscopic nanomachines of my own body are another example of Nagyari prowess. The millions of nanites, which made up Panico's body, wavered as though not of one mind about this statement. Trig and Appia looked at the old mercenary with slack jaws. Let's see if we can learn anything else, Cantor said. Remember, everyone, passive sensors only. We cannot emit radiation of any kind, or we'll be spotted. Tenna found this covert observation of Caldorix fascinating. Wow, this takes me back, Tenna whispered. I remember those long nights on Lightwater when the farm was slow. I spent all of my time watching documentaries about Malum Ralpakin and his fleet. Did you ever watch any shows about Caldorix? Trig asked. Lots, Tenna said. I can tell you she was built by the Bayou Trade Organization, that megacorporation founded by MSI slaves who tried to rebel. Caldorix is 193 meters long, has 10 torpedo tubes, and a whole psionic warfare system. Psionic warfare, Trig repeated. Caldorix can use psionic energy as a weapon, Tenna explained. That was how Malum defeated the Ether Drake. Anything else that ship can do with psionics? Trig asked. And please don't say it's got something stupid like psionic shields. Nothing like that, Tenna laughed, but it does have a psionic jump drive. Very suddenly, silence fell through the CIC. Rulon, Cantor, and several of the mercenaries were suddenly looking at Panico and Kara, the only two who had spent time aboard Caldorix. What the girl said, Cantor spoke to Panico. Psionic jump drives. What are the odds that it's functional? Very low, Panico replied. Psionic jump drives are very complex pieces of technology. Whoever salvaged Caldorix won't be able to repair it until they take the ship into a starbase, which might be where they're headed after this detour. Glossum waved for attention and gestured to the drone feed. Caldorix had dispatched a shuttlecraft. The small vessel flew around Hualinga once, examining the disabled ship up close. Then it turned around and began slowly moving away from the scene. No, Selborn breathed. No way. The shuttlecraft traveled very far from the Hualinga, hundreds of kilometers at least, but when it turned around and returned, the drone could see that the shuttle now had a small object grasped in its grapple claw. Is that Velda Nura's body? Anfel gasped. I think it is, Glossum replied. Trig reached forward and adjusted the camera settings. Suddenly, the drone was able to discern the markings on the side of the shuttlecraft. There's writing, Trig said, just below the cockpit, in the Valdum language. Tenna leaned forward and translated. It says, Long live Albury Charnham, slayer of the Vestum clan. And that's the symbol of the SLA under it. Trig paused, then looked at his mother. Charnham, Trig said. A family member? Kara Charnham sat down in a corner, pressing her fingertips into her forehead. "I'm trying to remember," Kara said. "Maybe? I'm not sure." "Caldorix is moving," Rulon called out. The SLA shuttle had docked with the Nagyari flagship, which was now moving off. The two escorts did the same. Poniko swore. "They're heading for the Whispering Garden Nebula," he said. "They're going to Tritonus." "Even when the Great Khan was at the height of his power, the Horde never got to the Olenbar homeworld," Tenna breathed. "What does this mean?" "I'll tell you what it means," Trig said. "Alex Camber is on that ship. He knows there's a keystone shard on Tritonus." "Can we get there before him?" Appia asked. "Yes!" Kara sprang to her feet, looking excited. "Through the conduit network. We can use the doorway at the Shroudwalker Enclave."